So we are going to talk about workflow blocks during this. This is Plotdrive. So, you write here, hello, craft on. It's a word processor. Looks like a Google Docs, Word, very clean document editor. This is where your book writing happens. You've got your text editing toolbar. You've got some AI capabilities up here that you can call at will, get out of your way if you don't want them. And this is where we'll be working. Left side, you have an expandable toolbar, sidebar. This is where you build your book. You've got a project selector up here. We've got this new project that we're starting. You can import files like notes, half finished drafts, really whatever you want that would be useful to you while working in this project to help you get organized. And you can create a new document. You can create folders and new documents this way. You can double click. So we're gonna name this folder Story Foundations, and I'm gonna make this maybe hook and pitch, and we're gonna build out a book. We're gonna show you a workflow for how to begin building when stuck, how to get organized, how to set yourself up for success. The other thing you've got down here is export. So goal of this, obviously, we want to finish a book. We're not going to finish a book during this workshop, but hopefully all of you are going to be able to finish the books you start. And so at any time you can export. If you have multiple documents, you can export them all at once. You can export them as a combined document, make it really easy to package up, and you can port it into any software that takes text files or Word documents, what have you. So we're going to put that back for now. And the last piece of the puzzle is down here, co-writer. So co-writer is very unique to Plotdrive. You can think of co-writer like a developmental editor, a writing coach. It can be a ghostwriter. It can be a line editor. It can be an assistant. And it can really help you break blocks. Co-writer has two modes, agent and ask. It's also got a support mode. A support mode is really helpful because you can get support about your account or about just using the app or report any issues you run into. But we're going to be focused on ask and agent. And so ask is you can just talk to it in the chat alongside your book. And before, this is just all prelude how Plotdrive works. Last piece I'll add before we start this workflow structuring process is these toggles. So let me make some new documents. We're going to make character profiles, and make locations, maybe something about tropes, point of view, writing style. And we're eventually going to fill these up, and we're going to get to an outline because that's ultimately what we want to structure. You can drag and drop really easily. We'll make another folder, call it book draft. So that's where we're going to end up writing the book, and we'll just have a chapter one there. And none of these there's nothing in here yet. The really cool thing about Plotdrive in terms of block breaking, in terms of actually giving you control of the technology, are these toggle switches. So very simple. You flip one on, and now the AI knows what's in it. And if you flip it off, then the AI doesn't know anything about it. This gives you a lot more control than apps like ChatGPT or Claude directly, because it allows you to tell your assistant, your tool, co-writer, what you care about when you are working. And it makes it very quick and intuitive. So we're going to show you this in action. It's easier said than done. So I don't know what to write. I want to start a new book. Let's say I normally write cozy mystery. Maybe I write romantic thriller, but everybody's talking about romantasy. And so I want to try to write romantasy. I like fantasy. I don't really know anything about romantasy in the market, but I'm a good writer. I can write stories, and I don't know where to go though. So one of the things that I might start out doing to do this are like, what are the current romantasy trends in the market that are popular with readers according to Publisher Weekly and other relevant publications over the next 6 months. And I'll send that to co-writer. Okay, so you can pull in market research to give it more context, but we want it to just be like, based on what, give me some ideas to get going that are on trend. Okay, here we go. So we got fated mates with agency, morally gray, love interest, slow burn, romance with high stakes. And co-writer is very aware of anything in your documentary. So it will constantly try to update like what you're working with. So the overall experience as you're working becomes much more customized to your project, your ideas, what's in your book. And so it's giving me some ideas maybe to get me going. The Necromancer's Apprentice and the Life Mage, I don't know about that. I think like it is giving me, making me think of fairy tales though, like maybe something about like fairy tales with dark academia. So what if we took fairy tales and merge that with dark academia? What type of tropes would we need to hit to satisfy readers and make this first book in a series really succeed in the market? Because one of the things I think you've taught me again and again, Russell, is just try to think about like the reader journey and think about what is that blend of the story I have inside of me and what readers might actually want, and like how to connect them and create space in life for this book to emerge. So
Yeah, so
find,
one of the things that I talk about a lot is the idea that you don't have to make a book you don't want to make. You should make whatever book you want to make, but there is a structure that will work for your book. So, like, you might say, I really want to write this specific book. And then you can say, oh, this really fits into the romantasy area too. But if you are going to write a book, it behooves you to know what kind of book you should be writing or what kind of book you plan to be writing so that you can hit the expectations of that readership. Now, what people often think is I have to be shoehorned into this thing that I don't want to write. But I think that we should be thinking about this the opposite way. I have this thing that I really want to write. And like, where does it fit in the marketplace? Let's say you came with that dark academia fairy tale book and you're like, I don't know, I want to write this book, but like, how do I do it? Like, you could
sure,
also go to co-writer and say, I have this book, this idea. What genres does this even fit into? And then once you're like, oh, that's interesting, you could say, okay, how can I hit this genre the best too? So you're coming at it from the I want to write romantasy because it's on trend. But if you're just like, I have this, oh, you finished a book even. You're like, I finished this book. Can you read this book and tell me like what I should be doing with it? Like, where does it even fit in the marketplace? Because once you have the book, it will fit somewhere. And then it's about like, how do I make it fit the best in this area and get it into the reader's hands who are going to love it?
I love it. And okay, so I found my way there because Red Riding Hood just hit something in me. So let's say I've come with I want to write Red Riding Hood in dark academia. I'm liking this grandmother's academy idea. So we're gonna go with this. This is resonating with me. Maybe I've got a soft spot for funny and unusual and maybe even macabre grandmothers as well.
But I love that because what you did at the beginning was just say, I like romanticy. I'm going to write a romanticy, but I don't know what to do. And then you had a bunch of, it gave you a bunch of ideas, and you were like, I don't know about any of these things. I don't resonate. But then you were like, maybe I add fairy tales and dark academia, and you do these bits here that like suddenly you're like, oh, I got it now. And you could see it in your face. Like you could see when your face when you were not engaged, and you could see it when you were like, I like this thing. And that's what I think we're trying to do with Plotdrive, right? Like we're trying to get you to have those moments consistently.
Yeah, I mean, my block, like what I'm feeling in my body is like I didn't know what I was doing when I started. I had some block, right? I did, and it was broken. And now what is released is creative energy. Now I feel like flowing again. And so, where I want to do from here is now I want to start building the context in this project, building the actual book to make the tools even more and more powerful. Like the more you build, the more you go, the more this stuff can help you continually break whatever block comes up. So what I want to do now is I've got this, right? But I need help. Like I'm not great at hooks and pitches, but I know having a good one is like the spine of what I can build off of. So I want to rather than ask, I want to go to agent mode. Agent mode lets co-writer take action in the project. So it's going to let it do what I do. Like I can write, I can make files, I can organize. What I want to do is, can you turn that into a, let's say, I don't know, 350 word hook and pitch for me and put it into, and then I can use the at button to target my file tree. I can just tell it, put it into that document. And let's see if it'll do it. It's going to check the document. There's nothing there. Oops, I didn't tell it. I need to stop it. I need to remind it. So we're going to go back. Can you turn, this was going to do all of them. Can you turn Grandmother's Academy? And so another thing is like at the top of the document over here, you have this really simple AI model selector. Plotchart lets you use like three of the top models, one from Anthropic, one from OpenAI, one from Google. There's also an advanced mode where you can have more settings, and on the pro plan, you can bring in your own API keys and connect to any model. But we make it really easy. And so right now it's using Claude to help write the hook and pitch. And you can
Are you
actually like
planning
edit
on
this.
getting up to three at some point in the near future? I see Gemini 2.5,
Yeah,
but
we were
that's
looking at Gemini 3, yep,
okay.
very soon for sure. It's a bit more expensive than 2.5 Pro. So actually waiting for some authors to give feedback on how it performs. But so like this is just AI generated, right? You can edit this. Let's say I don't like Scarlet Thorn, I can change it to like Gemini Wilcox or whatever, which is terrible. Like actually Scarlet Bones, but probably better. But you can have this as it goes. If you don't like it, you can reject it and also rerun it. For me, I'm gonna take it because I think it helps put together what the concept of what this is about. And in the name of showing off the workflow, I'll probably take this and move on. But if I was fully invested in working in this book, what I would be doing is trying to like go through this and be like, for one, do I like the magic system? Okay, let me think about that. Let me work on that. Asher Hale, do I think this is the perfect foil? Do I like his name? Decide like when do I want to spend the time on that? Do I want to spend the time on that now? But I think this captures what I liked about it, and we'll call it Grandmother's Academy, even to the point where I will rename the project Grandmother's Academy.
And I see a pretty good
Yeah.
question in here.
Yep.
Monica, would you be willing to come on, not camera necessarily, but like at least speech so I can ask some follow-ups?
Oh,
Sure.
great.
Otherwise,
There we go.
Awesome. My question is, so the question is, how do you train the AI to mirror your author voice? Which I
Great
think is a
question.
great question. Do you have writing that you've already, a lot of writing you've already done, or are you starting from scratch?
No, I have 12 books out. So I have I have a specific voice and I work with Claude directly, usually 4.5. So I've got a lot of documentation in there to get close to my voice, but I don't see a way, or it's not clear to me how you would do that. Do you set up background documentation to get your voice in there with
Sure.
samples, et cetera? How would you do that with Plotdrive?
Yeah, it's a great question. So basically, quite similarly to how you've done it inside Claude, you would like import a book or maybe even multiple books, and you would put them probably like up here. So let's say previous books or something like that. You'd have a folder.
Can I just show my
Uh,
screen by any chance? I have
oh
all, I
yeah.
can just
Oh,
show
perfect. Just
this.
show. Yeah. Let me stop my share. Or are you able to share?
Let's see.
Can you ask permission? Maybe Scott can grant you.
Okay, do you see my screen now with Okay,
Yep.
so I have two different big buckets. I'm not quite as sophisticated as Jay's buckets, but you can see I've uploaded all 11 of my nonfiction books here. And then this is the new series I'm working on and I uploaded all four books here. And then you can see this toggle on here. So when I'm working in nonfiction, which I do more often than fiction now, I turn this toggle on. When I want to write in my new series, I turn the other toggle on. And so this AI only knows now that I'm working in Quest Girls. And it only knows information that I'm working in Quest Girls. And sorry, I imported here and I just went to my file tree and I imported it and then it knew which things. And often I'll be like, I just need you to know the compendium, the lore, and like this book because I need to ask a question about this specific book to make the fourth book work. Like, what was the color of this person's eyes? And I know it's from this book, so I can turn on this one, or if I know it's like the other things. So sorry, I realized there's very saucy language in the titles for those books. I forgot. So does that make
Well,
sense, Monica?
let me
That
add like
does.
one more thing
No, go ahead. Yeah.
that might give you some more context too. So let's say you have, blah blah my book draft. Let's say it's 100,000 words or something like that. You come into this like point of view writing style, you can make a document. You can call it whatever you want, but let's say like the goal is for it to be style guide for later on while you're writing that describes your writing style and gives examples. And so the way to do this would be you flip on the book draft, and then we've got these one-click tools that you can click up here that you can think of them like reusable prompts that are your favorite prompts that just execute right in the document. You've got ones that will write at your cursor, and then you've got also ones that appear when you highlight that do revisions right in the document. And there's this library where Russell's helped develop like 50 of these tools, and you can even create your own. They can be anything like creates text with the cursor or revises. So what I would do here is again, let's say I have my whole book up here. I've got it toggled on. So now the AI knows it should know what's in there. And I've got this blank document. I would say, read my book and extract a writing style guide containing multiple examples of my writing, including prose, dialogue, point of view, like internal thoughts, and so on to serve as a style guide for a ghostwriter who will help me create scenes or chapters or whatever. This can be whatever you really want it to be. And the key with working with these models is like what I call it like a creative control pyramid, where at the top you have which model you're working with. On the left side of or one triangle, one node of the pyramid the triangle, you have the context. So that's like your book because it needs to know that. And then the other side is the instructions. And the clearer you make the instructions, the better. So I would just type this prompt right here. It knows this, and then I would hit this button, the go button. And the go button just runs your instructions right in the document. So like multi-purpose and flexible. And so obviously we just have a blah, 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 my book draft, so there's nothing in there. But if we had the actual book, it would create a style guide for you. And let's say we like that style guide. So now when we're writing, let's say we have an outline, we have character profiles, we have locations, we have tropes, got the style guide, we've got the hook and the pitch. We can come down to chapter 1 and be like, draft me a rough draft of the first scene in chapter 1. And now since all of this has been toggled on, it will draw from all of that and actually help you draft in your voice. So that's like a way to, Russell's way would work, but I think this way would give you probably like better context management because you would only be like, you wouldn't need to rely on stuffing the whole old book in. You could have a very tight description of your writing style with examples. Does that make sense?
That does make sense. And I feel like this would, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like this would do a better job of preventing some of that voice creep or hallucination that you start getting as you pile in more books. And that's one of the problems I get with when I'm working directly with Claude, because I do have 12 books in a series. It starts to lose its mind.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. This absolutely solves that. I think I'm not taking credit for figuring that out. Like all the early adopter authors who worked with us that realized that and said, hey, we need more control and we understand why the hallucinations are happening because like you're stuffing so much text into its brain that like it just gets confused because it's got too much at any given time. And once like you develop this system for like very precise control of just toggling on and off, and you can see down here like how many words are going into the window. Like you can start to develop like a very intuitive sense of, oh, like when I'm doing like this thing, the model doesn't really need to know all this other stuff. I can control it much more tightly. We've seen some authors who are like, they're like on book 2 of a series, they're like on chapter 35, and then they've figured out workflows where it's like previously they'd try to put book 1 and all chapters from like book 2 up chapter 1 to 34 into the context window and say, read my outline and help me draft chapter 35. And then they'd be like, wait a second, what if I just gave it like a summary of book 1 and a summary of acts 1 and 2 in book 2, and then a little bit about what comes like the previous 2 chapters, and then my outline and my writing style. Let me try that. And they would start to get way better results. And so they're like, oh, you start to understand like managing that context and that creative control pyramid gives you a lot finer control over the results.
Nice. Yeah, definitely. Thank you. I appreciate the that you jumping in and answering that question for me.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's a good question. Steven asks, is there a specific order the LLM reads the material, the toggle on material, top to bottom or bottom to top, or does it matter? That's a great question. So it goes in the order that you organized it. And one of the ways that you can test this and start to understand its impact is there's this binoculars button up here that's very handy. You can click show prompt preview. So it'll show you like all your buttons. So if like we have the go button over here, it'll show you the order it's going in, and you can expand them and see what's inside. And you can get, so like you can, for all your different buttons, they've got different prompts in them. It'll let you see like before you push them, what's going to happen. And like you can see the raw text going into, so you can start to see the order. I'd say this button's like really helpful when you're pretty deep and you're getting like weird results potentially from the output. It lets you troubleshoot and see, wait, oh, wait a second, I didn't know I had this text in a document because I've got so many documents that I'm working with. Or, oh, I didn't realize that like this thing was out of order. Or I thought I had my outline toggled on, but I didn't even realize it because the folder was collapsed and I didn't notice. And the AI is giving you some weird response. It's almost always diagnosable by just opening this up and clicking over. And if you're like doing a revision and getting the same problem, you could, this fix it button is really great. It's all purpose like the revision version of the go button, where you can just click select text and tell it to do anything, make this half as long, but it's also got its own prompt preview. So you can see what order things are going in for the prompts. And you can fix anything like this, which makes it really helpful. So it just cuts it in half, and you can keep both and kit bash stuff together. And one of the things that I like to do in terms of a workflow also with breaking blocks is, let's say I'm like, I don't know, I'm writing chapter one. I'm like, so Red Riding Hood goes to school and there's like a sorting hat or something and a meet cute. Then there's a moment where like sun beams through the window and it makes her think of a traumatic event from 13 years ago. I don't really want to like, I have these ideas flowing, but they're really bad prose, and I'm just like moving at the speed of thought. And there's nothing in these documents. And I'm like, oh, you know what? Clean this up and make it coherent as the opening to chapter one. And it'll hopefully, I may not know my hook and pitch actually. So I'd actually have to modify that to probably give it the hook and pitch because that button doesn't know. Try it one more time using this context of my story. And so now we get something that is a lot more workable in terms of prose. And so that helps me. Like that's like a block that I have and how I like to break it, which is there's sometimes when I really want to get deep and make sure like I have the sentences flowing and I want to make them like clean prose and really beautiful and really follow what's my natural writing voice. Like I don't want to use any AI assistant. And then there's other times where it's like I have ideas flowing, but like I don't have the correct vocabulary or words to get it out in the correct order. But I just want to speed through because like, I want to hit my word goal and I want to advance and I want to feel the momentum so I can do stuff like that. I think the great thing about, I'm going to answer the questions in a moment. But the last thing I'll add about that is I think the best thing about Plotdrive is like it customizes to how you like to work. So all of these tools, like they come out of the box, but you can just make your own. And it gives you full control over pulling in documents, like where your cursor position is, revision. So you can make, I know people have made like buttons that are like inspire me. And it's like a prompt that's like, when I get blocked, give me an encouraging quote from, and they give them like their top three favorite writers who are their heroes. And they just push that button to help them keep going.
I have one called Turn into Article, where I take some nonsense post that I did on social media and I click the button and it becomes an article. And like that's something to edit. Like I have to edit it usually pretty extensively, but like at least it's something that is there and it's not. The worst part for me in nonfiction is taking a 200 word post and making it a 1,000 word article. So I'm like, can't you just read this 200 word post and get the gist? And people are like, no, because they need examples and they need there's a whole thing with nonfiction. So knowing that I don't want to do that, I boop the button. I'm like I boop a few times and
Yeah.
suddenly I have an article. And it has examples and all the things from my other work too.
Yeah, I
All
like
right.
to do it with marketing as well. Matt, so let me just answer Matt's question and I'll come back to marketing. But Matt was like, when I click those, I don't get the pop, it just generates a blank response. One thing we actually noticed this morning is that like with some of the models, you can go to advanced mode. Some of them are actually set to like a very low output limit down here. I think that might be what's causing it. So you could try just popping on advanced mode and bumping up the output limit to long or very long. And I would expect that solves it. And we're gonna put in a fix to just make that not happen if it is happening because of that. So with marketing, I might be like, I might have like email newsletters. Let's say I'm building a newsletter around this because what is it? Newsletter is evangelism, right? And let's say I also have like TikToks because I want to be making TikTok scripts, and I might be like, oh, you know what? There's, I don't know, that 13 years ago thing. And let's see if we have a tool like this in the library. Blurbs and marketing copy. We've got a TikTok scripts button. Perfect. That's what I want. So I would just be like, oh, you know what? I like chapter one, and I'm not going to make TikToks now, but let's just give me my TikTok scripts. And okay, cool. Like I was writing and then I got some marketing work done and I'm still in flow. Like I didn't have to put on my marketing hat. I just had the thought, you know what, that moment maybe makes a good TikTok script. So let's just get it in there. So that way, like when I do go into marketing mode at a certain point, I can just come in here and see what was created and harvest it
Yeah.
later.
Can we talk about the library for another second? Can you just go to the library? Because
Yep.
I'm very proud that a lot of these came from my book, How to Write Irresistible Books That Readers Devour, which is about how to, shockingly, about how to write books that readers devour. And so it's all of these are built around like making hookier books that work better and that resonate more with your readers. I do make my own prompts sometimes, but in general, anything that I need is over here because it's specifically about how to make books that people are going to basically one click buy.
Yeah, I mean they're pretty helpful. Like you've got your frameworks on plot and structure. Love this create puzzle box, design a problem that seems impossible to solve. You've got also just like world building, create a rule system governing the world. Like these can really help you break the blocks of I'm a pantser, but I always, my structures are not workable. Like you can just use these to take what you've pants and then help you structure it in a way that, like you said, like hits the market, is based on Russell's framework. And it can also inspire you, like looking at these once you go deeper and start getting into the zone and getting into flow. Oh, you know what? Like maybe I could create my own. I'm like a really like I have certain like favorite authors. Like when I'm writing dark fantasy, I love like Robin Hobb. I might go down a rabbit hole. I could see one weekend and just like breaking down the structures and how they work in those books and then making my own buttons that are like based on my own sort of understanding of those structures that have prompts and start to like really go deep in that direction. So you can really personalize these to your own favorite systems, your own
Yeah,
ideas, your
yeah,
own
yeah.
structures.
And our idea behind these buttons is you're going to love doing some of these things in writing, and you are going to hate doing some of them. Maybe you love world building and hate structure. Maybe you love dialogue and hate character. I don't know how you would circle that square, but like you can narrow band the things that you don't like and use only those things. One of the great things is I wrote a chapter that was Lucifer fights 12 demons. And I don't want to create 12 different demons with 12 different powers and 12 different like encounters. That sounds horrible to me. But I knew I wanted it in the book, so I was able to write that. I was like, make this thing happen. And then it made it happen. And then I could do the next thing that I wanted to do and knew how to do. So they're grouped in the way that they are because there's probably something in the process. There definitely is something in the process that either you're not great at or you don't like doing. And the buttons help you get back into the flow of things faster.
Absolutely. I love this one that we have Angry Reader. Helps me spot the weak points. It's apparently we've got generic paint by numbers YA fantasy. Surprise. What I want to add is one cool thing that we're going to do with this to showcase the end. And if anyone's questions, keep them coming. But so one of the, going back to co-writer to show you its capabilities. now we've got feedback from this angry reader. And oh no, my beautiful chapter one that I thought was good is not, it's got some valid stuff. Let me throw that on. Co-writer now knows all this. It knows my hook and pitch. It knows my chapter one. It knows my feedback. I can be like, read the feedback and then rewrite chapter one for me to address this angry reader critique. And co-writer is capable of doing these sort of more complex workflows with multiple documents and doing some magic stuff. So you can start to, I'm showing this off just to get your imaginations going on the kinds of workflows that are possible with this concept of like overall assemble your context documents, the stuff that's essential about your book over here on the left as you're building it, and then work with this developmental editor, work with these buttons, just try to just like, again, going back to like how we started off the day with raising awareness of the blocks in front. Once you name the block, whatever it is, you can dismantle it. And you can use these tools to help you. And the net impact that we've seen on all the authors who have worked with Plotdrive this year has been like increased creative velocity, increased like happiness, increased time to finish. Like the things that are being accomplished are quite amazing. And the books that are being created are amazing as well. And so now it's just fix the chapter for us. And I
Amazing.
imagine if I ran Angry Reader again, we might get something a bit different. Let's see.
There's a question. Does Angry Reader even like fairy tales, or do they only like thrillers or something?
That's a good question. Okay, so now we've got some more feedback, but I think the different feedback, I think the important thing about this button is always going to be angry. So we'll always find something wrong. And you know what? I'm not blocked by needing an angry reader anymore. I'm ready to go on my way.
I just want to say, to
Yeah.
go back to Monica's thing, like these are things that are very hard to do easily in a when you're directly with the program, especially because you have this infinite scroll that will keep you have to keep scrolling back up to do all the things. And like you don't have you either put all of a document in or none of a document. So you don't have the ability to be like, oh, what if I just did this thing? And then can you make an angry reader? And then can I just on the right side of the screen scroll up while keeping my document in the center without and still moving forward? So it's these are the kind of things that I saw when I started working with you guys, and I love it because I hate the infinite scroll. Anyway, we have to get back to the thing, but you had a final thought, Jay.
Yeah, I was gonna just add one co-writer can also just to show off. I want to get the rest of my chapters in there because co-writer can do anything you can. So it can also create lots of documents for you in folders to save you many clicks. And so if we're gonna build out the whole book and drive the yellow brick road ahead, might as well let it flesh out this folder for us. And so there we go. I think the last thing I'd add is we built Plotdrive to work on mobile as well, on mobile web and tablet. So you can like writers or ideas are coming wherever you are. We're always context switching, we're always moving. And Plotdrive syncs across all devices. So you could like go from I'm on my desktop during the break, I'm walking, I can pull it up on my phone and just be in my project and keep adding to it. And then when I come back to a laptop or to my desktop again, it'll be right there. And I think that's been pretty effective for a lot of different kinds of workflows. You can also use voice to talk to co-writer right here. Co-writer, not Coretta. Yes, correct. Thank you. So that, and there's dictation also on the phone, so you can talk right into the document. Plotdrive adapts your workflow, adapts the way you like to write to your story. It gets better and better it, the more you build a book. It just has, because of these context toggles, its ability to comprehend what you want to do is totally incredible. I think we should continue with what we had begun in the previous workshop because we didn't really get to structure, and you had started showing off some of the tools that you made to help with structure. And I'm now deep in a genre that I don't know a lot about. And so I'm
Sure.
really trying to learn and unblock myself as I go. I feel like I just was listening to all those talks and I was inspired by the Ines talk when you both were saying if you like know where you're going, you can really mess with the reader. And
Right.
I just had the feeling I was like, you know what? Like I want to end this book one really like a bittersweet like kind
Sure.
of feeling.
Like
Like
Empire Strikes Back.
yeah, oh my God, devastating, but oh my God, I need to read the next one. And
Well, good
so,
news because this is like a huge trope in romantasy that where the hero. So I just read this book. Let me see if I can pull it up. Sorry for anyone. I won't name actually, I shouldn't name it in case someone else reads it. I was reading this romantasy book, and throughout the book, it's like a fae prince, and the girl like her was an assassin, and her job was to like kill this fae prince, but didn't know it. That it was this fae prince because he was a hidden anyway. She eventually comes out that like she's a fae princess because of course it does, and like that he was lying to her this whole time. And so book one ends with them hating each other, or at least her hating him. And there's a lot of, and that's not the only example. It's just I literally read it this week. So there's a lot in romantasy that you can you could use that of like bittersweetness where either they get taken away from each other, whether there's a lie that needs to be corrected.
okay.
Um,
So where I would start here is like in between off screen, I constructed a list of tropes that I have to hit in an outline. I filled this tropes document just so I could get some stuff going. And it gave me a bunch of stuff that
sure.
it seems, yeah, readers probably like this if they had picked up a book with this blurb on it. And then I
Sure.
actually used your tool that you created, the rule system generator, create a list of rules governing the world. And I had flipped on the hook and pitch. So just had this. And I just pushed that rule system generator and came up with all this great stuff. So now I've got like a fully fleshed out, alive setting of rules, social
Right.
structure. And like, of course, if I was spending more time on this book, I'd probably be like walking around thinking about this. Maybe I don't like this guy, Professor Ashford, or maybe I have better ideas than Scarred Hands. But okay, it's giving me some stuff to work with. Where I would go next is I'd go to co-writer, I'd put it in ask mode just so I can brainstorm and be like, hey, catch up on because I made some updates. I just want to make sure that it knows what's going on. Again, in honor of raising awareness to my block, I'm blocked by not knowing how to structure the outline for this book, but I do know I want to end on Empire Strikes Back style, bittersweet moment that is devastating, but also makes the reader like dying to read the next one, book two, and you unblock me. Okay, so there's nothing in the outline yet. So now it's going to read, hopefully read the rest of my file tree. Yeah, nothing in there. Oh, interesting. She's going to try to bind him. but her cloak that her grandmother gave her that started this all out. Okay, so it's giving me like a full idea for how to get to this. So this is interesting. Let's see where it wants to go. It's asking me some questions to unblock me and it's asking me if the structure works. And I'm gonna have to actually read this, but let's see. It's going for the devastating ending first. So can I imagine this in my head? Is it going to be inspiring? I like that like the cloak abandons her because she gets that in the beginning, so that feels satisfying, and that's her source of power. And the forest takes him. It's maybe like a bit too cliche.
It's not a devastating, this is a romantasy. So, like, the devastation needs to come from their relationship being shattered, not from a fantasy. Like, this is focusing too much the on the fantasy part and definitely not enough on the romance part, based on what I'm reading. So it's like the saboteur would have to be Asher or somebody else that like Red loves, if it's a reverse harem or something like that.
Okay, so one is he was like compelled and he was going to be a weapon against her, so it's a deep betrayal.
That's pretty good, pretty standard. Like the person who is there to corrupt her learns that he actually loves this person. It's a classic like enemies to lovers trope.
Oh, I like this sacrifice switch one. This one is it's way more devastating. She needs to sacrifice her own life, and he offers himself as a sacrifice, so she kills him and he dies in her arms, human again for just a moment. That feels devastating, and then we just need to add like a there after it that makes you want to figure out what happened next.
Sure. But like now we're moving into fantasy territory, not romance territory. The whole
Hmm,
point of romance is that they're going to end up together at the end. And if he's dead,
I
you
see.
lose the ability unless he's gonna come back. But even then, like you have to leave a romance. And this is pretty new that you can even do this because most the rules for romance have always been happily ever after, happily for now. So devastated for now, you still have to be like, okay, but they're going to be together. Just like
Right.
it's like this is too big a betrayal for one book.
I'm unblocked with creativity, but I'm asking. Let's see what happens. Love transcends death.
I mean,
Will romantasy readers be pissed about that?
I don't know romantasy enough, but this feels like a betrayal of romance
Okay.
to me. But I don't know. I see Elena in the as one of the people, so I feel like I'm not qualified to really talk about what the thing with romance is.
I
But
mean, this
there's
is what makes it
supposed to
hard,
be.
right? Because if I didn't have you here, I might have gone with one of these and hopefully I would have figured it out later. But
But I'll bet that that romancing the beat is in here, so I would just be like, hey,
oh, I like
because
this one. She becomes the wolf. She has wolf blood.
sure.
Still
That's the first
alive.
one that doesn't feel like a betrayal of romance. But if you're writing romance, like romancing the beat is the definitive structure that lots of romance is based on. So I would probably default to what it says. Again,
Fair.
it is the main defining difference to me with romantasy across other kinds of romance is like it can end on a bummer. Generally, like romance doesn't end on a bummer. They're happily ever after.
All right, so this is following Romancing the Beat, and let's see if it's gonna get us to, yep. Okay, so Alana says romantasy can have romance arcs through the whole series, similar to what a romance author might do with the duet or trilogy. So there are betrayals at the pinch points you can place at the end of book one, book two, as long as it's handled in such a way the romance enters know in the end the HEA or HFN is coming,
Yeah.
IMO. Yeah, okay. So I think as long as we like set it up at the end that like this is coming,
Yeah.
the
That would be like you have to leave that book devastated or not, that like they are still going to end up together at the end of whatever the series plan is.
yeah,
And I think that a betrayal should be a romance betrayal, not a fantasy betrayal. There has to be something that it breaks between the two of them. But the reason that this particular one worked was because they were fated mates. So it's like they set up, even though they didn't reveal the whole fated mate thing, it's very obvious that like they're both like meant for each other. So even though there's this cataclysm of they cleave, that they will be together in the end because they have to be. They're fated mates is the whole thing.
yep. So now I'm gonna switch to agent mode and have it move the outline and get it in here for us to work more with.
I think this is a really interesting thing that you like reason why developmental editors are because like I know this and like an editor would know this, but I don't expect like a this co-writer to know this necessarily. So what's interesting about how we always work together is like you could have a developmental editor theoretically like also on a call with you and you could be doing this like in real time instead of having to go away and like then do it and then come back and do a meeting. Like you could be like, yes, I think that's good, I think that's bad,
Oh
in a
yeah,
way
like
that's more dynamic.
we're working with a publisher who has got a teams of authors and editors working together. And one of the things that I think is cool is like the author can work and be working and build this story foundations folder. Development editor, like you can share a project, right? So I can add my developmental editor into the project, can come in and be like, no, this is not a proper opening to a romantasy or whatever. They can leave their comments here. And
Right.
then or maybe I can't leave a
You
comment.
also
Well,
told me that you could load in a commented document and they could and Plot Drive could work with that, like then with the actual comments in there. Is that accurate or is that like
we're working on that. Like we're working
okay?
on, yeah, please email us, by the way, if you like have a team that you work with and are interested in these workflows. And so we really want to develop them so they're smooth. But yeah, one way you could do it is like you could leave editor could leave comments on the outline and then the author can come back in and address them, and not even necessarily just like comments, like the editor could have their own folder where they're dropping overall feedback here based on what they saw in the outline. Let's see.
It's really interesting. The comments of how the romance beats and plot drive and button to beat out the novel using them. I do that before I outline. I don't love a super structured outline, but I love having the beat set. It's like,
Oh,
oh,
interesting.
that's
That's
great. They
cool.
made it looks like they made a button. Yeah, so they made a we call them tools now, but they made a button that's just do this thing for me based on this.
Yeah. All right, so let's see where it ended. He's human again. She's transforming. The mate bond still hums. She walks alone. She doesn't look back. She's running on Wolfman's legs. It's crazy.
Sure.
And the forest is whispering of the possibility. And she can sense him, and and she tells him, find me, and the wolf is not entirely gone. Oh, I'm getting chills. The unblocked, the creative flow is with me. This book excites me. Grandmother's Academy. What a name.
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, this works as a for fantasy first book in a series, but I'm assuming that this will be set historically or epic in an epic time because almost all romanticies currently are epic fantasy ones, not urban
oh,
fantasy
interesting.
ones.
Now you've got my mind going even further. Okay, let's keep the outline for now. We're gonna this, but let's go into locations because throw on the outline, throw on the tropes. I'm actually curious, like if I just use the go button, what are the types of fantasy settings that this story could occur in? Let's go with 5 different, like, non-cliche options. That would be completely original aesthetic twists. I'm just curious, like, if it comes up with something out of the box that might be very cool and level up this, even if I don't go with Subterranean Bioluminescent Academy. Don't know about that. Coastal Cliff Academy in Perpetual Storm. Bit too
Sure.
crazy. No, too much. Autumn Locked. That's interesting. An Autumn Locked Mountain Academy.
Sure.
I like that one. Let me get rid of these. Yeah, the other ones are too crazy, but the Autumn Locked one, oh, yeah, it even notes it himself. All right, so it's an Autumn Locked Academy. Now, do we have any tools that are related to location generation? What do we have? What is this? Reveal unique world elements. Maybe I'll try that. Oh, let's see. I'll take that one. And maybe we'll make a new one like create scene locations. Let's make this like some sort of teal. Sure, that looks good. And then let's see, create um, scene sketches for the locations in this story. Click generate to build the prompt. This helps you like build your own tool basically. Be one click. And I'm just gonna review this. Don't really think I need this words after variable. The variables determine like what it pulls in to the prompt. So I don't really care about the text after my cursor. So I'm gonna get rid of that one. But I do want it to use my active documents, which is anything that's toggled on. And that sounds good. I'll take this one too. I'll pin it. So now what I should have is create scene locations, and I've got this one over here, reveal unique world elements. So what I'll do is come down here and I'll click create scene locations, and notice this is in like my locations document. So I'm trying to build up some context for when we're writing, and we're going to maybe go back into the outline and make it better. So we're starting to get some interesting ideas. It's pulling in notes from the magic system, like that it has in my magic system document.
And just remember, this was all today, right? Like we just started this morning.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like
I could be ready to write the book tonight or tomorrow.
it's quite a lot of potential.
And I would definitely want to, and I think it's worthwhile before you start writing the actual book, like really sit with, because you're going on this journey, you're creating this space in your life to write a whole book. So sit with all this material that you've generated and be like, do I like this? Do I like this world? Can I make it better? What do I think about these concepts? As they are supporting our ideas that we've been working on,
Right.
but old language inscriptions. What is old language? Like, how much do I need to know about that? Same thing with the magic system. Does it make sense to me? Am I excited by it? Do I want to actually write scenes using that magic system?
Yeah. Like I would, if I were working up until this part, I'd be like, oh my, this thing would probably be like, I can't do a academy because academies I've tried. I only did one 2 book series with it and it was supposed to be a 3 book series, and I just can't with academies. There's not enough variance of time, space, location. There's not enough things to blow up. So you might come to this part and be like, these are all in one building. I don't really, it's not
Yeah.
my thing. Or you might do the opposite and be like, whoa, this is too many. This is too broad. I want to narrow it down. So there's no rules. What it allows you to do though is say, is to get your mind working with something.
Sure.
I've been doing this enough with Jay that I see him being like, I don't like that actually. I like this thing. We've done it where we get to a point and it's, I don't like any of these, or these were bad. Let's rethink and try again. And even having the ability to see it, see something you don't like is very valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. Look how fast we're generating this. It's just like giving our brain scaffolding to think through ideas. But just because it generates it, like you should think of it as like you can lose it just as easily. Delete it, get rid of it. Like it is there instantly and you can be gone instantly. Like just because some of this stuff is good doesn't mean you need to take it. You have a lot of good options. And we should assess this. I think what I want to do is talk to co-writer. I think that's pretty smart and be
You can
like,
probably also do this with Angry Reader, like
that's
what
not a
I'm
bad idea.
missing
Yeah,
here.
let's do that. Let's try that. Let's see. So it should read all this and just give us an Amazon review. So it tells us what's bad. Thing
Definitely
is,
some
it's
validity to that second part.
sure the install like it's too fast.
It needs to be faster or slower. I think that's what
Yeah.
it says. Like it's not actually doing the job.
So it is reviewing it. It is reviewing the like outline material as if it's, but it's good to know I think it's all in it's going to be all in the execution. Oh, it likes the setting.
It says this reads like an outline. Duh.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah. So I'm gonna take that. But one thing that I want to try is what do I want it to do? Read at locations because we just developed this. and review. It's a good idea, Macaroni. Let's do that next. And review my outline. Do you see new ways to enhance and strengthen the outline to ensure readers love this book? What I would like to do here, I think, to improve this is see, does the additional context now with all these cool locations that have been fleshed out of the outline, this seems like a good idea.
Sure.
This seems like a good idea too.
So this is like where buttons and co-writer work together because the buttons are great when you have a specific task that is knowable and doable and repeatable, but like when you just want to get feedback on a thing and like you want, oftentimes it's better to do co-writer because of this thing. Like if you have a nebulous goal that you don't quite know what you're looking for, then like co-writer lets you talk through that bit, I think, better than the buttons do usually.
Yeah, because I think you can also do, and then you can also be like switch into agent mode, be like, okay, great ideas, revise the outline now to incorporate your suggestions and strengthen. Because if we didn't, if it had bad suggestions, we wouldn't do that. But now they're like, oh yeah,
Right.
you know what? All those suggestions are actually quite good. And
Or you could say make changes to one, three, four, not the
yeah,
rest of them, or something like that too. Just like something
yeah,
a button
absolutely.
is not, or a tool is not going to be able to, the nuance is lost in a tool, in the tools.
Yeah, a
But
tool, like you said, it's like a single use, repeatable thing. But this thing is co-writer is much more, you can run more complex workflows. You can have it do multiple things. You can have it target different documents.
right. Yes. So I like, but I mean, they're both great, depending on the, and having access to both is great, especially if you like, you don't want to be making buttons all day. Or you don't want to
Absolutely.
be, or you don't want to be talking to co-writer all day, which is why there's both, is having both is great. It's like, I don't want to argue with co-writer. I just want it to do the thing.
Yeah, Macaroni said, does the co-writer read the documents on the left or just the middle section? So co-writer has, you can see down here, AI context, and you can see what it can see. So any of these toggled, like the blue switches, that's what it knows. And so at any given point, yeah, Monica, that's exactly what I want to do next. So I wanted to rewrite this outline, and then what I would want it to do is do a developmental edit now of the whole thing and tell us what the strengths and weaknesses are and how we can fix the weaknesses. And then based on what it would find, that's where I would want to be like, okay, now we have what I think is a strong outline. I'm gonna go walk around and read it and let it sit in my head for a bit and see, do I want to write this? Is this the book? Can I make it better? And I think that's like a pretty good workflow to get a very strong structure. And look where we
Right.
started. At the beginning of today, I didn't know really anything about romanticy. And now I have something that like I feel it's got energy behind it. I feel like it could actually like romanticy readers might actually really like this, especially with a great cover that really hits the like fairy tale dark academia trope with this, especially with this like perpetual autumn setting. I can imagine that looking really cool. So, Shannon, can you specify the story structure you want to use for your outline? Absolutely. Just like we specified romancing the beat, you could say 3x structure, Shakespearean 5x structure based on A Midsummer's Night's Dream, like really anything. You could bring in your own structures or you could reference any structure that might exist out there. And these models are incredibly smart. So they will really be able to help. You can also, some things I've seen people do are like, hey, like, what are the comps for this book in my genre? What's really popular with readers? And what kind of structures do those books use? And then that can give you an idea for how you might structure your book. I'm gonna accept that. And then I think we might actually have a tool for this in terms of editing. If I look up core writing tools, editing plan. Yep. And it'll summarize the strengths and weaknesses. So let's take that one. Should be pinned. I'll just make a document here. Editing plan. Yep, you could do that, Shannon. You can edit the outline, make it a standalone, like it ends, and there's not going to be book two. I think absolutely you have a lot of flexibility. Macaroni asks, so when you bring in the voice of the author, let me make the editing plan and then I'll just show how to find the voice, which is really important. Because no matter how good your structure is and how good your world is, if it's not well written, nobody's going to want to read it. Like you need a good way of telling the story. So here are the strengths, weaknesses. Okay. Yeah, pacing might have to calling out this. Oh yeah, in supporting cast. That's good because if you look at my character profiles, there are none. That's something that I didn't even notice. We have no supporting characters. Okay. This is good. Tonal balance. So it's got some good things like that I would come back and want to fix or work with it to try to fix this. And I'd probably like, again, spend some time thinking about these things and making my own notes. Because now we're so deep in getting help from the models that like it's breaking my brain. Like I don't have enough capacity to hold all this yet. And if I'm gonna write this, I need to be holding enough of the world in my head and the relationships in these characters where I feel like I want to go on the journey, spend time with them in the book. But I think this is like a good place for me to come back to before I lock in the outline. And if we actually had a developmental editor, like they could even come in and read the editing plan and agree or disagree and leave their comments on it. Okay. So you have an editing plan, the writing style. So where do you bring in the voice of the writer? So we don't have anything. I've just got this bad chapter one that was written earlier that I'm probably going to get rid of. So how do we figure out what the writing style is? What I would do is one of two things. One, I would just write the first chapter myself. So I'd like literally go in and I would just start from the outline. Chapter one, I would write this like she arrives. I would find a way to imagine. I spend some time like writing my actual prose. If I had written more in a voice that I thought would work, I would bring it in and then come up with a writing style guide based on that. But we have no writing style. So what I would do here is ask co-writer. I don't know anything about successful POV and writing style for this type of book. What are the most popular modes of storytelling and style for a book like this? And I'm just going to see what it knows and what it can tell me and work with it to find this. So give me examples now. First person, there's dual first person, so that might switch between the two. So first person present. Maybe consider adding Asher point of view characters. So what I want you to do is being like create a writing style guide with first person examples of different types of writing that might occur within the course of types of chapters inside and just have it make a writing style guide for me. And then it's going to ideally build a voice. And now if you're going to use this to write with or draft with, I've seen a lot of different workflow strategies for different authors. Like one thing is you just let the model write, in which case the end result is like you are more creative directing a draft. I've seen authors who write in different genres who use this to, they hate drafting, they love editing. They slash everything once the scenes are written, they rewrite it in their own style, but it helps them to see what the models would generate. So there are other people who do it other ways. I think the overall thing that I know is like you want a consistent voice that readers really respond to, and the more unique it is, the better it's going to be. So you can see now like it's building this style guide. And so you would read the scene type examples and you'd be like, do I like this writing style or not? You can tweak it until you get it to a point where this feels good. And so one thing is that stands out for me, and I'll show you how to use this, but like one thing that stands out for me that I would definitely change if I had more time would be like, this seems pretty cliche. Actually, like Scarlett, there must be a way to make her like a more unique main character, both in the way she thinks and the way she speaks. And I don't know enough about her flaws. I'd probably go into character profiles and really make, we have these tropes, but I'd probably make her expression of the tropes much more unique. So then it'd feel more fun to write. It's building this thing. Co-writer is using probably a lot of tokens. I'm on just an account that I like have infinite tokens. I don't know, I couldn't tell you, but every time you can see the generation of like how many tokens are being generated right here. So it's quite a lot of words. You can generate less. You don't need this much. You can also see how many words are going into the context window. So I can see over here, like that cost me 87 credits. And over here, probably cost at least, so it's maybe 200 credits, maybe more, but at least 200 credits for using that on the Plotdrive credit system. Okay, so if I wanted to use this, I would come in, you could see I flipped it on, and then I'd be like, draft the first 500 words of chapter one. And I would use the go button. And so now you see we have first person. This is readable. If I look at chapter one bad, yeah, this is just way, I don't even need this anymore. Chapter one seems way more interesting to me. So I think that is how one way you might build a structure and workflow and advance pretty far when you're blocked by structure. You're more of a pantser.
Yeah, and I mean, we also did this from zero to go back to the comment about tokens. Like, not everything has to be from zero, and not everything will be in that. If you looked at the context window, he has, I think you have 4,000 token max or something like that. Like, it's pretty
Oh
long.
yeah, in
Like
terms of
that's
output, yeah.
so that's very long. It says very long. So you can do a normal chapter is that about that length, somewhere between the 1,000 and 2,000 words.
Yep.
So, but also we just did a month's worth of work in 2 hours. I cannot overstate how much work this would be in my life if I did this. So I probably wouldn't do like when I draft, I don't do almost any of these things. I do the thing I showed you earlier, which was like the books, the whole books. And then I have a world compendium that like I keep adding to whenever something happens.
Yeah, the fear is when we bring the story that we already have in our minds, how closely do they follow it? I think that's up to every author to judge. I find that they can follow it pretty closely.
Yeah, but can
It,
I just like how closely would you follow it? 0% closely. It will stay, I assume, as close as you want it to, as Jay said, but you are going to want to make changes throughout the book, almost assuredly, especially if you do this for the first time. This is your first book, or I think it's your 13th book, I remember, but
I've written like five,
like
maybe six.
yeah, I've written 77 books, and I can tell you that they rarely stay to the outline. I have done books like with AI, and it's a chapter by chapter tug of war. Sometimes the sequence works really well. Like sometimes it sounds like me, sometimes I have to do a lot of work. Sometimes I don't sound like me.
You're the storyteller, right? You are the
Right.
author, you are the energy. Like this, the technology is just the engine that unlocks your
And
creativity. Like it unblocks you. And
sure.
so,
And like you can see, right? You just drafted book one off the doc off 10 documents versus one document. And so how much documentation do you have? Like what is the point of view? Like how much do you like how much does the point of view you're writing in match your actual writing style? Because and
yeah, and it like that's the thing, right? It's like I'm at a theme park right now. I'm at this grandmother's academy theme park for the day, right? And it's fun to play around in this theme park today in this writing style. But truth is, I care about the stories that I want to put out into the world. And so for me, if I'm gonna make Spice my life to create this book, it doesn't reflect enough of my point of view yet. And that's why I would spend time going in thinking about Scarlett. I might change her name, but I might definitely make her and Asher more reflective of what I feel about fated mates, like in my life. I try to connect it to like the map of my own path and my own phantoms and desires and dreams and find a cool way to bring it out in their voice. So this would be more me and it would sound more like me. And then my journey would be how do I use these tools going forward to keep unblocking me to make that the best expression of what I want to do. But I'm making the decisions at every given path, whether or not it's staying true to like that evolving through line of clarity I have on how I want the reader to feel and what is going to be satisfying to me. It's different for everybody.
yeah. When Monica and I would talk about this, we were amazed that the same model in the same context could deliver two such wildly different things, and mine could sound like me and Monica's could sound like her. But I think that expecting, unless you already have a bunch of books, like expecting a story that is in your head to be the story that actually comes out is not going to make you happy because of the Ira Glass quote, which is when we get started, we think that we have good taste, but we have good taste, but we don't have the ability to do the thing. We're not good at the thing yet. So like it's all about narrowing that band between my taste is good, but I don't know what I'm doing, which is why I always say don't write that story. If you're at the beginning of your career and like you have a story you are desperate to tell, don't write that story. Write a story that is more structured, that you care less about. I love fantasy, but my first books were like Monk and Psych because I really like those things, but I don't have a deep connection to it. So if you feel like you're going to, if you come into a scenario where you're writing a book and your expectation is that you are going to get the exact book that's in your head. I can tell you, I've written 77 books. I am constantly surprised at what happens in my books. My wife is always confused. I am literally surprised every book that people make the decisions that they do. So you could be the kind of person who gets the thing on the page exactly as it comes out. But Inez has written 100, like Lee and people like that have written like 100 books. It's a lot easier for them to get the thing that they want to happen to actually happen. But one of the great joys of writing is that some days your character will make a wholly different decision, and they should, because your context happens. Like you get context with every chapter you write. Whenever someone asks a similar question about writing, like that is what I tell them. It counts in horseshoes, hand grenades, and writing this book.
Now we are going to move into a workshop about how to use Plotdrive to develop your voice.
Wait, before you do that, you have to tell the ridiculous thing that you told me earlier today.
About writing a book.
Yes. Like, why you let that's the lead, dude. Come on, man.
I was going to show the project.
Oh,
So yesterday, when we started showcasing Plotdrive, I had an empty project and this notion that we wanted to show people how to structure a workflow inside Plotdrive. And to do that, I would develop a romantasy novel. And I think the first question I asked co-writer in Plotdrive, which we'll show you momentarily, was like, what are the trends in the market in romantasy? I've written other genres. I've never written a romantasy novel before. And we had a lot of people in the audience who more familiar with romantasy were contributing. And we built a whole structure of a romantasy novel that became this book one in a series, Grandmother's Academy. And what was super cool about this is that I got completely unblocked. Like I had developed a full outline by the end of yesterday, like the whole world in a full outline. And I got completely blocked and I just went on a writing spree over the past 24 hours and wrote the whole rough draft and got it into Vellum as what I'm calling our first Plotdrive original. Do you have the other screenshot of the author's note, which I think is really cool, to add it at the end about how this story was shaped, about written inside Plotdrive, a strange, meticulous story engine built by people who love books enough to be afraid of simplifying them. This novel grew inside that living architecture where threads could be followed, echoes remembered, and the deeper currents of character held steady when the forest felt too dark to name. Plotdrive did not write this book. It held the vessel, the structure, the breath between scenes so that a human hand could choose each word, each risk, each wound. If this story reached you when you needed it, know that the same engine that steadied my hand now waits for others who are brave enough to finish the quiet terror and impossible beauty of finishing their own. Some stories resist gentleness, some require a toolsmith's patience, and some ask only that you do not look away. So the whole rough draft, I wanted to put it in vellum just so I could make it real and give it a cover, but it needs editing. Like I'm definitely going to edit it. But I was like, I actually think it's good. I went from block to completely just full of creative energy and velocity, and here we are. So it was quite amazing, and I'm looking forward to editing this and actually releasing it and getting it in the hands of readers. I do want to I'll show off how I developed the voice for this first, and then we can maybe start a new project too and look at developing voice and answer questions as we go. This is my Plotdrive where I have Grandmother's Academy. Got this Story Foundations folder. For those of you who are new, really quick, I'm going to show you Plotdrive. So you have your document in the center. It's like basically like a Word document where your content goes, you're editing, you're writing your words. You've got your toolbar, standard word processing toolbar. If you don't have to use AI at all, but if you want to use the AI tools, they're up here. Like you can pick from different different AI models to help you in brainstorming, outlining, editing, revising, drafting, whatever you prefer. And you've got these tools that are like one-click buttons that help you brainstorm. They can help you revise as you go, move really fast. There's a library up here of different buttons and folders that Russell Nolte here, who has written over 50 books, fiction and nonfiction, helped us build from his creative framework. And you can deploy them in your project to use, but you can also get inspired by them and create and organize your own. So it allows you to create your own custom workflows. On the left side, we've got a sidebar. For those of you who are familiar with Scrivener, it's like a simple organizational system to help you organize and structure your materials. You can import from out of Plotdrive in any file that you really have in other word processing programs or notes. You can create documents and folders. You can export when you're done. That's what I did to get into Vellum. It took me like 20 seconds to get it into Vellum and completely formatted, which was pretty cool. And you have context control, which is a major way that the writing studio here adapts to you and helps you as you go. And that's really how I was able to go so fast and execute at such a high level. When you flip on these switches, it basically tells the AI tools, hey, know this about my story. So when I developed this outline, according to Romancing the Beats, and when I developed this voice file, which we'll look at in a moment, the AI knew this when it was helping me develop the draft. And so because it was toggled on, the tools knew to draw from that and help me keep things really consistent and in voice and in structure with this incredible world that we developed yesterday. The other tool is this right side panel called Co-Writer, which has two modes, Ask and Agent mode. Ask, you can brainstorm with it like a chat assistant, and the agent mode, it can do things in your document. So it also, the more you work with it, the more it understands like what you're trying to do. So you can see here, like I've come back and it's reminding me where I left off, which was like I was reviewing the whole draft, the rough draft, and trying to come up with editorial feedback. So that's Plotdrive in a nutshell. And what I want to do is just start a new chat up here. And you can see it knows we're working on Grandmother's Academy, and it's giving me some ideas for different things that might be helpful. And you can see also co-writer knows all these toggled on documents. So we don't really actually need it to know all of that right now. We're just going to flip them off. So now there's nothing that the AI knows about since we flipped these all off. But I want to work on point of view writing style. Maybe I'll throw in the blurb so it knows that about the story. So what we did to develop this writing style yesterday was I talked to co-writer for a bit. Hey, can you explain what popular writing styles are in the romantasy market that readers really resonate with and why they are effective? Give me notes on prose, dialogue, and POV. And then explain how my writing style might match up. They'll ask it stuff like that to get started. And this can be good if you're developing a voice, like you've never written in a new genre, which was like what I was trying to figure out. But I think also like you can come at it from all sorts of ways. Like you started writing yourself, or you have a half finished draft that you're stuck on, and you want to know, hey, read a sample of my writing and tell me how it matches up against the voices that succeed in this genre. Give me some understanding of like where I need to go to satisfy reader expectations. And then for me, the usefulness of this is it gives me something to think about. It gives me some ideas in my brain about, do I want to read this? Do I like want to go on this journey? Something I learned from Russell, he talked to me about when we first started getting to know each other about like how to open up space in your life to create a book. Because a book, like writing a book, arguably I wrote this rough draft really fast, but like to go on the journey of actually editing it and actually bringing it to the market in a way that I'm satisfied with, I need to create the space in my life to do that. It's not just going to happen on its own. I need to put in work and mental time to do it. So for me, being able to see the words and think, do I want to read about this character? Do I like the experience of reading this myself? Can I imagine like enjoying this book, even though like I've read some romantasy, it's not my top genre, but is this something that I get energized by? And so for me, this is a useful way of helping to figure out how to hone the voice of the story and get some materials down so I can look at it and develop it even further. Let me just answer a question from Ariane. Does Plotdrive also require subscriptions to Claude or ChatGPT if you want to use those in Plotdrive? No, it does not. So the Plotdrive subscription, it comes with credits to these three of the main best, like most super intelligent model providers. So you have Claude 4.5 Sonnet, which is Anthropic. You have GPT-5, which is OpenAI, also makes ChatGPT. And so GPT-5 is like the model they use in ChatGPT, and Gemini 2.5 Pro from Google. In advanced mode, if you have the Plotdrive Pro subscription, you can actually like bring your own API keys. So you can get something like an open router key. An API key is basically like a secret password to another provider where you can buy their credits at the rate that they offer, and then you can pay them directly and bring it into Plotdrive. So it gives you like enormous flexibility, but you don't need like a Claude or ChatGPT subscription. I have a ChatGPT subscription just because I use ChatGPT for other stuff that's not writing. But like I would say the great thing about Plotdrive is like it's a proper writing studio for creating books. It's like custom made for increasing creative velocity and keeping you in flow while you're working on a book. Whereas ChatGPT or Claude, they're not designed for book writing. Like you can get things accomplished related to your book writing, but like the interfaces are not giving you this ability to like structure and control the context in a way that's super useful for authors and like the business of book publishing. And we didn't come up with this on our own, by the way. We weren't like, yes, that's how you do it. We worked hand in hand with hundreds of pro authors who are using these tools and helping them with their workflows to find together like a workflow system that would keep craft and the human touch front and center, your words, your story front and center, and allow authors to move into this modern world of book publishing demands where you talk to like any author that's got a series that readers care about at all, the first word out of the reader's mouth after they finish reading a book is when's the next one. And like there's no speed at which you can actually produce enough books for your readers if you've got a book series that they love. Like even though there's so much content in this world, there is never enough content for people who love the stories that you're making. So I think that's like something that I've learned talking and working with so many different kinds of authors. So you can see here now, if we're looking at co-writer, it's giving me like, we can do first person present tense. That's ultimately what we went to. Creates like immediacy and emotional closeness. There's a dual POV. You've got sarcastic and sharp-tongued, sensory heavy prose, which is like the book talk style. I think we threw some of that in. It's giving like a lot of different kinds of thoughts on what resonates. And what I did to get Scarlett Thorne's voice, and Asher Hale is the wolf character, so her fated mate, love interest, and I found a way to get some dual POV, like a couple of chapters from his point of view because they were effective, but it's mainly written from her first person style. And you can see like strategic Asher point of view chapters create dramatic irony, which worked really well for this. But where this came from, actually, Russell, was like a bunch of your buttons were pretty helpful, your tools. So I created this character profile, and the way I did this was I think I had a build protagonist, which is one of your tools, flaws and growth patterns, and supporting cache generator. And what I did was like once we had my blurb, I had tropes, magic system, locations. We had our outline, if you remember. And if you remember, one of the criticisms we got yesterday from the outline was there aren't any supporting characters, so I had to fix that. because we were just focused on the main story. But what I did was like, I built out these character profiles using your tools that felt really good. Like they honestly felt like they were really satisfying the archetypes and the tropes and the premise. And it started to bring this out based on the outline. You can see like when it knows the outline, because it had the outline toggled on here while I was working on this character profile document, is able to pull in like actual beats of the story to help support what it was going for with developing the character traits. So the more info you give in these different folders and documents on the left-hand sidebar, the better results you're going to get when you use the tools, because the models can pull from the story that you have in your head and what you want to tell, and they can help you really enhance those things that might take you an enormous amount of your time on your own to think through and find. And by and large, you don't have to ever accept anything the AI comes up with. Like your hand is on the wheel. You have to make the choices and the decisions. You have to use your judgment. I imagine if I was like a master romantasy author, I would probably be slashing some of this away that I didn't know any better and thought, oh yeah, that sounds good. But I don't know the genre as well as somebody who like lives and breathes this genre. But it did help me build out these characters, and then from there, what I did, and let me answer Lara's question in a moment. So the co-writer generally search for this info to look at specific reader publisher centric sources. So it's a good question. So it doesn't search, it's actually based on the model's training. So it knows a lot about the current world because the model companies are continually like bringing in training data. So it's got a lot of built-in intelligence about the market and what's selling because it's trained on the internet and a lot of different sources. So it is able to know this stuff about, if we look at like A Court of Thorn and Roses, The Cruel Prince, Fourth Wing, like it knows Violet Sorrengail, right? Now, if you wanted to go even deeper and make it even more effective, what you could do is bring in as a document, you could do it up here, like research on market. You could pull this like up here or even put it into Story Foundation somewhere. Let's say it's, I don't know, maybe up here. Maybe I put it out there and so on. Maybe you make an old folder for market research. And you could copy paste in public like stuff that you found from your own research that will make this better, because and then you just flip it on, and when you flip it on you can see now research on market, there's no words in there because it's blank. But let's say you actually had like a good market research report, it now co-writer can see that and it'll pull from that, and instead of giving more generalized thoughts on trends, it could be targeting like extremely specific trends that you've identified on your own. So you have, that's something that I think, yeah, absolutely. Built intelligence is very appealing for me too. It saves a lot of time. And I think like the thing that we've seen through talking with so many authors is just for every author, what they love spending time on is totally different. And but I think everyone agrees the things that they hate spending time on, they would happily give up that time to spend more time working on why they love writing in the first place. If you can have more quality time when you get the time to sit down and actually write, you can actually like finish incredibly ambitious books that are more you than I think you ever could have before. So if we go back to point of view writing style, what I did was I had a pretty bad chapter one that I just built off the fly. I had some ideas for how it started based on the outline. And I asked, I used like the fix it tool to clean up my beats and make it coherent. And it was like, all right, that's a starting point. But I knew it wasn't good. I knew I needed like a better voice that I would want to go on this journey with. And so along the way, I developed these character profiles. And then when I came back into the point of view and writing style guide, I just told a co-writer, I'm not going to do it now, but I'll show you what it did. I basically switched it into Asian mode and was like, can you write a comprehensive POV and writing style guide for both Scarlet and Asher, and put it into and then I could target the file that I wanted to go into and put it into, and then be like, give examples of prose, dialogue, internal thought, and anything else relevant to help me draft the book. And something like that, and I sent that in, and then what happened was I got a rough draft version of this point of view and writing style guide. And I worked on this for a bit as I was preparing to go into the book draft. I started to get examples. I think at first you can see this building out. At first, she was very much like a very clipped type of prose that I felt was fun to read, but also a little bit one-dimensional. And so then I thought, can we expand that? And this is again like where my own taste and judgment came in. Can we expand that? Whereas there's a shift, like from a romantic tension scene, like versus an action scene. Here we can get something that's like a bit more, almost like a little bit of literary quality in it. And so it's starting to give different examples. You can see like it's drawing from the outline because it knows we have investigation mystery scenes. It knows we've got the romantic tension scenes. It knows we've got the action combat. It knows we've got social hierarchy and politics and world building. And so it's giving a lot of different examples. And if we go down, we've got Asher now. And one thing I've seen some authors do, I kept it in one document. You could have like point of view writing style Scarlet, and then you could have another one beneath that's like for Asher, and then you can toggle on Scarlet when you're writing Scarlet chapters. You can toggle on Asher when you're writing Asher chapters. It gives you a bit more control. Whereas I was optimizing for speed, and so I was trying to see, can I get a rough draft that I like out of this? And here it's got some like contrast to keep them unique, so avoid confusing the reader about whose perspective am I in now when I switch to a new chapter. And then what I did before I figured out that I wanted Scarlett to be like a bit more of a hybrid voice where she was short and clipped, but could also have a bit more of a literary quality and go a bit deeper. What I did was I started drafting at the beginning of chapter 1. And this is like more of a final chapter 1 I have now, but my first draft of chapter 1 used the rough draft of the writing style guide. And what I did to do that was I came up here when the document was blank. I wrote draft the first 500 words of chapter 1. And then I like toggled on all of this so it knew all this stuff. And then I just hit this go button. The go button is very flexible. Like it's basically lets you prompt the AI right in the document. So it says up there, type your directions, click the go button, and the AI will follow them. So it's very like multi-purpose, very flexible, very fast. You can use it anywhere. You just always have to remember to delete your prompt out of the document after you're done, especially if that document is where you're building your draft. So I did that, and it showed me like 500 words of this first chapter from Scarlett's perspective. And I was like, this is cool, but I don't know. I feel like I'm going to get tired of this voice. And then I started talking to co-writer about that. Why am I getting tired? Are there ways to expand and deepen this? I really love this fantasy author that writes in first person, Robin Hobb. She doesn't write romantasy, but like the Farsi trilogy is some of like the greatest first person narrative that I've ever read in fantasy. Could we use that? And to co-writer's credit, it was like, no, I don't think that's a good idea. Like romantasy readers don't vibe with that kind of writing. But if you want to bring some of that quality in, here are some options for you. And so then I found this hybrid writing style, which if I was a master romantasy author or had like a real romantasy editor alongside me, they would advise me against trying that because maybe it was too weird. But at the same time, for me, part of this was just about unblocking myself and can I actually achieve a full book in the style that I want that satisfies the premise and like nails that structure that we set yesterday. So I was like, you know what? Let's go for it. Let's rewrite. Let's do that. Let's take that idea of the hybrid style. Let's rewrite this whole writing style guide. I asked co-writer. We had some information in here after about the idea behind the hybrid style and said, okay, can you take at POV writing style and rewrite it to strengthen it with your suggestions for Scarlett's voice. And it came up with a plan and it went in and it made the edits for me. So it would be easier for me to, it was way faster for co-writer to do that than for me to come through and fix everything to expand it, which would have been like old world way of doing it. So that was super helpful. And then once I got that, what I did was came back up here and I said, okay, draft the first scene using the go button of chapter one. And I started reading it. And I was like, you know what? I would keep reading this thing. This is cool. Like she's come to this reliquary. It's got this like lock-based magic system. It's almost like a dark academia sorting hat ceremony in this perpetually autumn locked world that's always golden and never turns to winter. And she's an outcast because she's got this hedge witch background. And everybody else of these like famous families, these legacy families, like they know what they're gonna be, what kind of like magic class they're gonna be put into. And there's this seventh lock that hasn't opened in 50 years, and she's been called for the first time to open it. And she gets this Red Riding Hood cloak that is alive, that has never been used, and it's the first woods warden ever created in this land in 50 years. Her grandmother was the last one. Nobody knows what happened to her. And it's going to burn her alive unless it chooses her. And so there's pretty high stakes. And she's chosen, and she gets this Red Riding Hood cloak, and she swears to hunt the corrupted wolves who threaten civilization as her duty. And she records the oath. And we get introduced to this council of grandmothers, where grandmothers are not actually all grandmothers you're related to. It's just like a name in this world. And you learn about the social hierarchy, the politics, and she finds her way to this tower where she's alone, the Woods Warden's quarters, and she's 19 years old, supposed to hunt monsters, supposed to die doing it. She's alone with the cloak and the forest, and she hears the wolves howling, and it ends on this like cool poignant note. And I read this and I was like, I want to keep writing. I want to know what happens next. And knowing the structure of the ending of where I wanted to go to, where it was going to be this devastating ending between these fated mates who are supposed to destined to hunt each other, but they fall in love. I was like, I want to get there. I want to see, because I love this opening. I'm really into this voice. So then I was just like, I couldn't resist. I was like, in terms of voice, next chapter is from Asher's perspective. I'm like, all right, can I read the wolf's perspective? Can I read the fated mate's perspective? Is this going to be readable? Am I going to want to continue reading after the end of this? And same answer. It was just like, yes. And then I think I started playing around with a cover. I think I sent you, Russell, a couple of covers. You were like, dope. And I thought they were cool. And I was just like, you know what? Some writing time needs to carve itself out in my life last night and this morning. And so I went through it. I saw some places where along the way where I was like, can make this better with an edit, but I want to get a draft done and put it into Vellum. I also had this, where is it? I gave myself a reader review from a fantasy author who never reads romance, but also from a addicted romantasy author who basically has concerns about the ending because it is devastating and risky, and downgrades it to, I think she downgrades it to a 4 at the end. But that actually inspired me to write this like letter from the forest at the beginning with a reader advisory to set the expectations of what this is going to be, because it is a tough ending. And even then, at the end, I added an author's note that talks about the consequences of an ending like that, but also letting the reader know that don't worry, that there's hope for the two of these characters that you've grown so attached to. So that was my journey with voice. Happy to answer other questions from folks who are here about voice, about Plotdrive, about how to bring your own voice in rather than develop a new voice. Russell, do you have any last thoughts to add if you're still here?
No, that's great. Great job. I love it. It's incredible. And I think anyone who's watching this can do the same, just like with a little bit of work and effort.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Like this is what we say, like AI enhances or makes you a cyborg, not a scab, because it takes all of the blocks away and like lets you do the part that like you are uniquely excited about.
Yeah, I'm excited to edit it too. I was using creating this book. I would check that box personally. I would say yes, like for sure. AI in writing, in art, has quite a lot of stigma associated with it in the current world, but the more writers come in and lead the way, the more editors come in and lead the way and understand how to use these tools to help the craft of writing and share those techniques with each other. I think the more those stigmas fade and the more the truth emerges. And we just know from talking with so many authors who have had develop like success using these tools that their readers are really happy and they're really happy, which is ultimately, I'm not going to say it's ultimately what matters to everybody, but ultimately I think that matters a lot when you're going on a journey to write books and live a creative life.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
best way to maintain voice characters and plot development as you roll out a multi-book series, you do it a couple of ways. Like you can have one project for a trilogy, your whole series, and you can bring in and you might have a folder that's like book one at the top, and you might have you pull it. So let's say this was book two. So what I would probably do here if I'm writing the full trilogy, which if I release this, I think the readers will absolutely kill the author if there is not a full trilogy. So because of how the first book ends. So like I'd move everything up into a book one, then I'd have a book two folder and start building up book two, and I'd flip on what was relevant in book one, might have like draft, and then the draft would be like my combined draft, and I put it in here. And I might also have a story Bible that I would create from that draft. And to create the story Bible, we have a story Bible button over here that you can use to just one click create a story Bible from a book. But you can build out your own kinds of story Bibles that are useful to you really easily. So that'd be a way that I would do that. Visuals, Ariane, we don't have visuals. It's primarily text-based, just like you and the words. Visuals are helpful. I would definitely use like a secondary app for visuals. I think we learned that, not to say that having visuals inside like a writing studio is really helpful, but I think we saw that just we're focused on like how can we keep you in flow as fast and productively as possible. And to do that, we wanted to just strip it down to the absolute basics and get out of your way in writing. And yeah, for five, six, or seven books, absolutely. You can do it the same way. There's one of two approaches. You can make one project for a full series and put all the books in there, or you can have multiple projects for like different arcs in the series. So you can divide it up. The best way. What I would recommend is start with one book in a series. And if that book was like, let's say you're on book eight, just bring in the previous books to one project and then work on the first book. And then as you go, you'll get a better sense for, okay, should I put book nine in this too? Or should I like divide it into multiple projects? And if you get there and you have questions, feel free to just email us and message us and we can help you with your workflow. To write comics or other illustrated content, I think writing comics are definitely possible. Like we've talked, Russell, about workflows to do that. And you can for sure set up Plotdrive to follow the format for comic scripts. You just have to work to build a custom workflow for that. And I think the best thing I could say is try it out and message us if you run into issues and we can help you improve it to do that. I think any kind of long form narrative, it is a very good workflow engine that can increase your time and flow. Now we're going to do a building compelling character workshop in Plotdrive. So let me share my screen. I'm working on Grandmother's Academy. Got a new on-market cover based on, I think, Russell, what we talked about during we were doing something called Finish Line, where we're helping writers do a 6 week sprint to finish a book in Plotdrive, and we talked about cover design, and I was looking at market comps on Amazon for Romantasy and analyzed them and built this in Canva. Got that, but I want to talk about compelling characters. So I've got my book one, right? I was thinking about what's the best way to do this workshop, and I want to build a cast for book two because it's a trilogy, and I have an idea of what happens. And I think some people might be coming here, they might be like, I'm working on the second book in my series or like a feature book, and I build compelling characters to structure an arc around them. And so, what I want to do is show you how I would go about this. And if anyone has questions, drop them in chat. So, I'm just going to make a folder to
So
start.
just to be clear, you're talking about making characters for book two.
Yes, book two. So, I want co-writer to know the outline, and then I want to make sure for an estimate. So I'm going to brainstorm like what happens at the end of book one and what are the implications for where the story might go in book two. And meanwhile, while it's doing that, I'm going to build character profiles up here. I've got character profiles here for book one, but it mostly takes place inside this academy. And I know they're going into this place. Like the main character has been turned into part wolf. And so she's exiled from basically her home and has to go into this new place. There's a devastating betrayal. She has to go into the winter reaches. She becomes like a new type of combination of wolf and woods warden. And we know her grandmother disappeared there 50 years ago, but that's all I really know. And so like now I'm dealing with even more complex romantasy tropes as well because now I'm structuring a trilogy, right? And I just know that in the end, at the end of book three, I want them to live happily ever after. But I also had this idea that there should be a love triangle and there should be a new character that becomes really important that is in this book too that comes between and starts to play with the fated mates trope. So what I would do here is start talking to co-writer about
I will just say here, you should have one in book one for editing. Like you should have a person in book one that is a love triangle if you want to make this a romantic fated mates book.
okay. I mean, there are supporting characters that might pull, but I don't know that how much of it is actually like a
Man, how much
real
marketing time was Team Edward versus Team Jacob in this thing? And it was set up in book one. Like it's a whole thing.
interesting. Okay, so let's actually flip on character profiles then. Maybe we can enhance a character that is supporting to become more of a starring role.
If we're gonna, this is how character and structure go together, because if you want to write a series, the best structure that I have found for a series is called the Levitz paradigm, which we do in comics, where at the end of like the A story at the end of book one goes away. And then there's a minimum of two to three other subplots, but plot B becomes plot A, plot C becomes plot B, plot D becomes plot C, and then it just keeps going on like that. So similarly, there should be characters in book one who get bumped up in book two, and then people in book two who get bumped off, as in
Interesting.
die or leave the plot. There is one other structural thing that I want to bring up too, if you're okay with it.
Yeah,
If you're writing an academy book and you leave the academy after book one, people are going to be pissed
right.
because it's a book about an academy and the academy should be playing into a role. This is why, in general, what you get in an academy book is four houses, both all alike in dignity, or like some pairing system. You would have like they're going for 4 years. Or like you'd have some mechanic where they're moving between the things and between the years, and then they all like grow up together. So I'm not saying you should change book one. What I am
Right,
saying is
yeah.
you may want to change the title of book one from being so
Sure.
academy.
Yeah, I hear you on the academy front. I'm gonna throw this in and see what we get from
Great.
co-writer. I'm curious like how you could maybe keep the academy going. And these are good questions, right?
So here's what you would do in book two. So every academy has a rivalry. If you don't have a rivalry in book one, your editing needs to do a rivalry in book two. And you would have that character be picked up by the rival academy and realize they're not so bad. So this is like the Lost phenomenon. This is an old show now, but
Oh,
we're all
Lost.
old, so we remember Lost. Not the people listening necessarily, but we remember Lost, right? So what happens in Lost every season, they reach a new level and then they get encountered by something mysterious. And then that mysterious thing becomes less mysterious and they integrate it into so the whole series is just them this like wave of this crazy thing. Oh, now I'm gonna learn about it and get less gonna become less scary over time. And this is another great way to build characters into your thing. So if they have a rivalry for let's call it rugby, and they've been going all year with these like Monster Academy, Grandmother's Academy versus Monsters Academy. And there was a cast of characters who were on the rugby team, who were on the opposing rugby team. They had a moment at the end where maybe they were nice, or maybe the rival, the person who's in the love triangle comes from that other academy, and then she has to leave. And the last thing that she sees is Team Jacob being like, I can protect you, or I'm not going to turn my back on you, or something. And then she goes to the other academy, and that's how she's introduced to all of this stuff. That's like a great way to keep a series going. Honestly, you can keep it going forever.
Sure. I'm getting some ideas.
It's hard with Academy. This is why I hate writing Academy because I have to stay in the Academy. Every Academy takes place over the course of a year, and like people grow and it all coalesced into this thing. And I'm like, I need to blow everything up all the time. So I can't write Academy anymore.
Sure. Okay, so what I'm gonna do here as a starting point, by the way, is I've got enough, I think, context to start. It's giving me stuff around the
Mhm.
academy, how it's gonna work. It's giving me, so I made a setting document just so we can pull from it. And then I'm gonna have Coder do it. Can you put content as setting description into add setting and then put the character sketches and how they connect to book one into at, let me make sure I'm targeting, this is at book two character profiles. Made sure I made it agent mode. So this is maybe faster because it didn't finish and I just don't want it to keep going on and on. I just want to get it to get me material to work with because then I want to use your tools to start the tools that you added in the library. While it's doing that, I can actually start setting these up. So we want character creation, right? And I think we want, I'm going to take all of these and maybe world building. Now, we reveal unique parts of the world might give us some ideas for characters in this new setting. Maybe sensory details might give some new ideas.
So I would say probably you want to do four books, and each book it takes place in a different season
Oh, that's interesting. I like that.
because you set it up.
Yeah, yeah, it's planted. So you
And it
can see
looks like
now
you
co-writer is it's working in both documents at once, which is one of the advantages I think of using co-writer for like more complex workflow operations. It can both write in the setting, but it's also giving us the character profiles at the same time. Kale is a very Claude friendly name, so definitely gonna have to change that if we use Kale.
out of curiosity, is Asher a good boy or a bad boy?
But he's a good boy.
You need a bad boy.
But
That's such a rookie mistake writing romance, especially writing this kind of romance. Like you need a good boy and a bad boy.
you know what? I mean,
Are
like
they
he's like,
like motorcycle rider versus like pickup truck?
yeah.
That's how I imagine like the two things.
She's though, the thing is about Scarlet, she's more of a bad girl in terms of
That doesn't
like
matter. The girl is an avatar for the reader. The boy is the people that she can pick between.
interesting. That's good. That's good feedback.
This is all for anyone who's listening. This is like some of my deepest cuts of character development and like character triangles. If you read, all of you have the right irresistible books that readers devour if you signed up. So there's a whole chapter on structure and like these kind of how you create characters and the different ways you can create characters. But this is even beyond what I wrote in the book. Is Cale Winterborn's got to be a prince, right? Prince of the Winter Realm,
Prince of
something.
the Winter Realm, probably.
You got to have some royalty in there. You got to have Asher be like a down on his luck, like normal boy. Then,
So here we got the Wolf Academy inside the Winter Reaches.
awesome. So there has to be a save the cat moment in book one so that the Wolf Academy has some redeeming quality, but they should be otherwise just dicks.
Okay. Okay.
Because then when Cale brings her to this place, he can protect her as well, everyone else is against them. And that puts a good conflict in this other academy.
It looks like he's currently the lead hybrid magic instructor. Wolf.
They've got to both be students. You can't have that relationship. And actually, you could, but you could have a mafia relationship. But probably you don't want that if you can avoid it, unless it's integral to the plot.
Yeah, I don't, in terms of blocks, it doesn't really, it's blocking my creative energy for sure. I don't love this character. I just want to get it down. I want to get all
Sure.
this stuff down to work with. I probably, by the way, should have told co-writer keep it short, but at this point, I'm gonna let it finish all this. But I probably should have made these 1,000 words max,
Yeah, well,
which is a
yeah,
also a rookie mistake.
yeah. Get to go back to what we talked about with Kern earlier. This is how character informs structure and structure informs character, right? Like your main character has a core wound and like they have an internal and external want, and then we have conflict to bring that out. But the way we bring it out is also through having these characters that do different things and service different angles of someone's personality. It's like Team Jacob, like Bella was able to embrace her inner bad boy, but she came home to Edward, who really saw her. Although, I don't know, it got really muddled in in later books, but that's the kind of idea.
Stop character profiles because it's like too much. But what I actually want to do, just so this is easier to work with, and summarize these in 500 words max as character. Just so I know what we're working with, and I'm just going to use the go button to do that.
Sure,
And because I don't need all this AI generated nonsense to shape the cast.
sure. You have to also have a reason why Kale hates Asher. Because it's a triangle,
Yep.
not a arrow. And if you wanted to do this as a reverse harem, then you would have a third person and they would all have different personalities, but they don't have to hate each other. And she would get to choose whichever one she wants whenever she wants. But they would also service different parts of the things that she wants.
Easy way to shrink 7,300 words of AI into 500 words is just select it all, use fix it, and just tell it, make this 500 words.
So were these like fairy courts then? Or like why is this eternally autumn?
It's a good question. No, I think it was like the Red Riding Hood. Where it came from was like it's the Red Riding Hood myth. Where and we were talking about what type of fantasy setting could you set this in, and then asked it for a bunch of outside of the box settings, and it had this idea of a
Right.
pocket dimension, and that was like felt resonant. So that's really where it came from. To explore why that is, I like there's opportunity.
This is things we were going to do today, I thought, but like then you wrote an entire book overnight. So now I have so many questions. Like, if it's going to be four different things and fairies are like very popular within this genre, can you make them fairy courts?
Yeah,
Like,
probably
or like
probably
some
could.
reason why we're now once you get two different climates, you just got to do the four. You got to do all four
Yeah.
seasons.
So now we're reviewing the book two character sketches, and I hate Kale. He sucks. We need a better character here who has a real reason to hate Asher. He needs to be a student. Maybe he's got royal blood. And what about the fairy courts? Are there interesting ways to bring fairy courts into this Red Riding Hood trope world, especially given we have autumn and now winter as a season,
So,
well, setting, maybe we'll also have.
so yeah, what's interesting here for everyone that's watching is he has now, by picking Autumn first, made the Summer Court the villains. The Summer Courts have to be the main villains of four because it goes in order: autumn,
And
winter,
so the
then
summer,
spring, and then summer has to be like, so you can, if once you have a mechanic like this, you can start seeding that now. That's what the whole Levitt's paradigm is about. Like, you can seed these things like four books ahead and then work your way, and in each book it gets more and more. I think the Summer Court's great villains. They're my favorite
yeah,
villains. Almost all, I think all three times they destroy the universe, the Summer Court is to blame.
okay, this is pretty good. So now, correcting my mistake, now I can be like, okay, great, love that. Make the edits to, and then add setting and add character profiles to integrate this new, call it lore. Make sure you keep each document to 500 words max. So this is another thing that I love about. Remember when we first started like looking at Plotdrive together and working on the tools, Russell, you couldn't do anything like this, like the edits would fall apart. But now
Right,
you can do these like really precise multi-document edits. That's much faster than being like, let me go through and use a
right.
tool and then work my way around, especially when we're like rapid fire developing characters and leveling this up from a place of, I don't know, sounds generic to, okay, this seems pretty good. So we can go into, you can just click here, go into the setting document, you see it's selected that all, and now it's making the edit, and it's talking about the Fey heritage and the connection to the wolves. And we've got the Autumn Court is now the Academy, which is pretty cool and makes a lot of sense. And what's interesting too is when I go back to edit book one with all this knowledge now of like where I want to go, I can start to plant, and I think it will make
Yeah.
the book one a lot stronger. So it'll just feel like there's more iceberg beneath the surface of the story.
In this world, you see how each book, there's a new set of villains and a new set of bad guys that just naturally start coming out in this thing. You can even make a book five that was like breaking the seasonal curse of all of these things and find like something that was even the humans were actually to blame. But it like naturally the bad guys in book one, if they are the winter wolves, then like you find out that they're pretty good. And then the spring court is the bad guys, and it just levels up naturally in that way. And you can also say, you know what? I don't want the winter court to be the bad guys. I don't give a crap about courts. And then I would say we need to change the autumn court then. And that's fine. You can make that choice, but that is what people will expect from this series. And if you don't want to give them that, you have to expect that people will be angry. And I will tell you, you might be okay saying people are angry now. You will not when all the reviews come in. You just will not be happy. You will not be happy to look at all the bad reviews or things that people are saying is wrong about your series. Even if you do it right, you'll get that stuff. So it's better to plant the expectation now or say that was a really cool idea winter court wise, but autumn place. But like it brings along with it too much baggage. It forces me into Fey realms, it forces me into courts, forces me into royalty, it forces me into all of these things I don't necessarily want to do.
That makes a lot of sense. And I appreciate the insight. Well said. So now, okay, it's doing the character part next. And now we've got a proper third son of the Winter King student at this Frostmark. I don't know if we're going to name it Frostmark, but it's good enough for now. We've got the Winter Court. We've got,
Hang on, before we go past here, I want to bring up a couple of things. So this is the third son. So there has to be a succession problem now. And the two other sons, or maybe there's a daughter in there too, I don't know, all have to be characters also, because like otherwise, why is it a third son?
so here's a quick way to do this now. And I can just add that, and then I can click supporting cast generator. And let's see if it picks that up and gives us something interesting. And there we go. We get the first song. Again, it's going Kale. These models like love their first name. So it's like another thing that if you want better names first, I think writing them into the instructions. Probably if I go into the library and I wanted to make this better, I'd be like,
Use
for instance,
Kale.
yeah, don't use cliched names. Bring out names thematically from the content of the story. Like you can definitely both instruct the prompt builder to build a better prompt or just write your own rules to make sure you get better results than these generic things.
Now you're moving more into this royalty thing. And if you might not want to do that.
Right.
So if you don't want to do that, having a Plotdrive program be able to show you all of these things, but do you want to write that? What I like about this also is you're just talking to the AI like it's actually so many people when they try and they have problems using AI, it's because they're like trying to make it a too formal and you can really just talk to it.
The more and more I work in Plotdrive, the more I become aware of what's blocking me. For me, block is anything in the way of speed, creative flow, anything that feels friction. So the more you develop your own kind of self-awareness as you're working of being like, I feel resistance, and then you want to take a beat and be like, is this the right resistance where I should be like sitting and thinking for a moment? Or is it just, no, like I don't need to think about this. I hate this name and I know it's bad and I want to fix it fast, but I don't want to, I know enough to know I don't want to spend an hour thinking about names or generating names. So I'm just going to fix this and tell it like it's my super intelligent assistant right next to me and hope that it comes up with something good. And if it does
So,
it quick, great, we're on to the next thing. I
well,
don't
and
know,
if
Ryan
you
Malvolio is the best name, but it's better than whatever it was before. It's
right.
better than Kale.
And if it doesn't work, you can always do iterate 20 names
Oh
now
yeah.
or
Yeah.
something like that. If you
All the
want, if you
tools
get
there.
stuck on here, you can do something like that
Yeah,
also.
there's one
Like,
here, generate title ideas. We can make generate name ideas. I can just paste this in. say characters. Include a mix of evocative, poetic names and clear marketable ones to each name. And then we pin this. So now we have name ideas. And let's just go down to the bottom of the document and just click name ideas and let's see if we get anything good.
I like Sorrow Whitemark, honestly.
I like that one too. We're gonna keep Sorrow Whitemark because that
I
one
like
feels
Cinder. Cinder. Now, see, you can use Cinder, but now you're like, oh, is this a fairy tale book where you're bringing in other fairy tale characters? Because you can't bring Cinder into a fairy tale book without it being Cinderella. It just
yeah,
has to
that's
be a thing. Like, why
interesting.
would you why like that book Cinder was like that whole series was about that stuff. So not only was it in Cinderella, but then it was like doubled down in Cinder. And especially Cinder spelled like that. Maybe you could do Synder without it being like
I think
Cinderella.
we're gonna drop these up here for when I come back and be like, and just leave those as a way to keep building. And so here, that's a fast way, right? We've built some compelling ideas, some compelling characters. We've expanded the world starting from just book one. We've got a setting that now has potential to not just deal with book two, deal with book three. We started to think about like how do we even get to the happy ending in book three, or it could be book four if we're going to do all the seasons. And I've got it set up just in book two. And so what I would be doing now as I start to build the whole project, I'd be like, this is book one, this is editorial feedback, book one, just to help me organize. This is like book one story Bible, or maybe call it like story foundations, make it clear. And then book two, story foundations, or something like that. That way I'm just organized so I know what's going on. And over time, what I would probably be developing is like in maybe like an overall series foundations folder that has context that I might want to pull in while I'm working on the books. And my goal would be just like stay organized, make sure Plotdrive knows at any given point like what's most important. So not getting totally lost and having so many documents that contains like so many different things, just so it's more manageable for me so I can go faster when I'm writing. And just keeping an eye on like how much is in the context window down here. I've got 21,000 words. If I'm going to put 21,000 words in, is it the most important stuff, or can I turn that into 5,000 words and it's equally rich and dense? And that's like how I would work as I was building, because the more you go in a series, like you may need to actually have 100,000 words in the context window that the models are aware of at any given point. And if that's true, you want to make sure it's the best 100,000 words and the most useful to what you're doing, because otherwise you're just going to get worse results and you're going to be less happy than what you could get if you were getting like really spot on results every time. Thank you for coming. Here's one thing that I hope you might take with you. The block isn't the problem. The block is just information. It's telling you where the knot is, and now you have tools to untie it, whether that's a mindset shift, a structural framework, finding your voice, or building characters you actually care about. The writers who finish are not the ones with more talent. They're the ones who figured out how to keep moving when it gets hard. And that's what this has been all about. What matters is that you feel creatively inspired and you finish what you start.